Welcome back, listeners. I'm Robin Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. Today, we have a special guest with us, Reginald Sherman. He is also a motivational speaker and the host of Real Talk with Reginald D. Reginald, how are you today?
I'm doing excellent, Robin. Excellent. I'm so glad to be on this All About Healing podcast. You're doing a lot of great things with it, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I grew. It's kind of crazy. I'm gonna take you down the road here. This story. So
Okay.
I grew up in a single parent home in
Hmm.
Greenville, South Carolina, and when my mom and dad, my dad, they just had me, they didn't went their separate ways when it's all said and done. But I came from a very religious family, and a lot of people would say that I was not going to amount to anything because I was born out of wedlock. Maybe my own close family members and friends and close people were saying that about me, and I kind of carried that chip on my shoulders for a long time. I wasn't
Yeah.
mad at anyone or anything like that. The chip I had was that I was going to make sure that what they said about me was not going to be true. They weren't going to be able to come back and say, "I told you so" about me. So I was
Yeah.
kind of this kid that just grind through life all the time, always trying to make things happen. Wasn't perfect at all, but as I went down my this road of being a young man, in the household, you got to grow up fast when you got your mom and your little sister in the house. So,
Yeah.
so my some of my opportunities probably not like some other kids. Some other kids probably had the father and mother, in the house at the same time. But I was just this kind of guy. I just took advantage of moments. I
Mhm.
remember we went to Burger King one time, and I was like 13 years old, and we didn't get to go to Burger King probably every 4 months. We didn't have money,
Mhm.
so mom took us to Burger King. So we started in line, and the manager kind of had the hots with my mom, right? So so I'm sitting there like I'm not even thinking about this hamburger that I really don't get anyway. But I mean, I love Burger King. I was a kid, but I wasn't even thinking about this hamburger. I asked him. I said, "Hey man, I need a job."
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I need a job." So he started talking and talking to me, and my mom was like, "You can't you can't do this and go to school." He said, and then she said, "You're not old enough either, by the way." And
Hmm.
then the manager said, "I can sign a waiver for
Yeah.
him to come work." So I I talked my mom into it. She said, "As long as those grades don't start failing, we'll go for it." So
Yeah.
that's just how it's been with my life. I was around one of the greatest leaders in the world. I say in the world that I know.
Hmm.
My grandfather. You know, he was a pastor. He was a outreach kind of type minister, and I would go stay with him and my grandmother during the summertime, and just hang with him.
Yeah.
And he taught me all the hard work. He taught me to grind. He taught me how to, have faith. He taught me how to treat your fellow brothers and sisters, and how you're supposed to walk in life. I remember seeing these things as a kid, and I was like, man, we leave church, we go to a restaurant, and we just sitting in the restaurant eating, and it never fails. Somebody come in the restaurant and say, "Hey, that's Pastor Sherman over there," and they'd be like, "Yeah, that's him. We got his meal. We never paid for anything in this little town we lived in," and I was just fascinated as a kid, like, who is this guy? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just his leadership and who he was. So that kind of molded me into
Yeah.
who I am. I was never the one to give excuses. I mean, I could have
Mhm.
did so many excuses growing up, trying to work a job to help keep lights on at 13 years old.
Yeah.
High school, I'm in high school at 16. I'm working 3 jobs and going to high school, helping to keep food on the table and helping mom out. And
Yeah.
I could have been poor me, but I'm the kind of guy, no, it's on me when it's all
Yeah.
said and done. So, and I always
Absolutely.
tell people a lot of times, man, you can't pull me because a lot of times it's on you.
Right. Absolutely. I like that. Man.
So fast forward a little bit. I was minister licensed to be a minister in 2004.
Yeah.
Then started doing the ministry thing, and a lot of roadblocks, like they always do, and challenges, get in the way. So
Yeah.
I had opportunities where I actually preached at different churches, but had one incident, Robin, that I preached at this church, and they were like looking for a pastor.
Hmm.
So the guy called. He was like, he was on the board or something, and he was like, "Hey, we really enjoyed you. Would you consider being our pastor?" And I was like, "Yeah, I consider that." So then we had a meeting with the board like on a Monday, and he said, "I'll call you back." He called back. Then he called me back on Tuesday, and he said, "Hey, we got one question." And I said, "What is that?" He said, "You married?" I said, "No, sir, I'm not." He said, "Well, you can't be our pastor." So I'm like, "Whoa, man, really?" So yeah, and I actually had like 3 different offers to be a pastor, but they wouldn't do it because I wasn't married. So I'm like, you're gonna roadblock my gift and things like that. I mean, it was like one of those things. So I decided, I said, you know what? I said, I'm gonna do this thing my way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this thing my way. And then it's funny that after I had those letdowns, or whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
I got a call from another pastor one day, and I went down to his church and preached. And I came home that night, and he called me, and this it was crazy. He said, "My congregation received you so well, I'm willing to step down and give you my church." And I was like,
What?
"Wow." Yeah, and I was like, "Wow," because this is like my first time being at this church. I didn't know anything about this church.
Yeah.
So by that time, my mind was like out of it. I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to pastor. I'm not going to do this." I said, "I'm going to do it my way." So when I started doing it my way, it was kind of like, hey, I felt so free. I
Yeah.
felt so authentic, and original. And so that's when I started doing just speaking engagements, and then my speaking engagements turned into more of a using God and Christ as the train to pull it, but
Right.
it started being more the motivational type style of doing it.
Right.
So now you're out of different conferences. Salvation Army had me on the hook one time of being their speaker, and different organizations and things like that. So that's when I learned that, hey, you know what, this church thing, I like church. I go to church, and I was raised in the church, but right now in this time of my life, it ain't for me.
Yeah.
God has something bigger. So that's when you know. My wife and I
Mhm.
started this podcast. You know,
Yeah.
she came up with the idea and said, "Hey, well, let's start this podcast and let's let you speak about this." I'm like, "Man, I don't really know nothing about too many podcasts. I don't know about what we're doing."
Yeah.
So we did it, and it has we've been, like, I think we've been in it for over a year now, and
Uh-huh.
we in like 85 countries, ranking
Yeah.
in 85 countries, and then we like the top 1% globally in this
Mhm.
podcast and what we talk about in the motivational side of
Yeah.
things. So it's been a blessing. It's been amazing. And I always tell people, man, a lot of times you got to do it your way. You got to
Absolutely.
do it your way to order to get things done.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I love that a lot because when we think that it's supposed to go one way, it doesn't work that way. We have to kind of pave our own way. And I like that a lot. Tell me, or tell us a little bit about when you when you actually had these speaking engagements at the prisons, and what was that like?
It's it's I think it's when I go somewhere like that, you speaking to a lot of broken people.
Yeah.
It's not like going to this huge mega church and speaking, and you got all these people living like they want to live, living good or whatever. It's a lot of broken people. And then you have to bring a message that will empower them,
Yeah.
and to raise them up. A lot of people go in there, I get it. They go and they talk about Christ, and they talk about, being a Christian and sin and all of that stuff. And I kind of realized that. So there was other churches going in there. I said, well, I'm gonna do it this way because somebody else is already preaching this, So when I got in there, it was like, wow. I remember speaking to at a prison one time before, and I think about a year and a half went by. I
Hmm.
got a phone call from a guy that was an inmate there,
Yeah. Hmm.
and he called me and he like, man, I've been trying to get in touch with you, blah blah blah. And he said, man, I'm doing well, and I remember who he was. He said, I'm doing well, and I'm actually pastoring my own church right now. And I want you to come down here and speak in my church. And I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
I'm on it all day. So
Yeah.
it's just like it was like a blessing when you go in there and you hang out with the brothers and you kick it with them. I mean,
Yeah.
we all have been through some stuff in life, man. I know what the streets are like. I've been through some things too. So, but you got to understand that when you're in that position, you have to understand where you're going. You have to
Mhm.
understand your moment. And once you understand your moment will give you the momentum you need when it's time for you to get out of those situations.
Absolutely. So, how did that make you feel when you were younger? I remember you saying that there were people telling you that you wouldn't amount to anything. Is that what also acted as your motivation as well?
Yeah, it kind of took me to some level that's like people might think I'm a maniac or something, but
Yeah.
it's just that I had to say to myself, okay, it's either gonna be that or it's gonna be something else. You either gonna be what they say you're going to become,
Mhm.
or you're going to become something greater than that.
Yeah.
And I took that chip with me, like I think I just let this thing go 3 years ago, and I'm 51 years old. All my
Yeah.
life, I got to be great. Because I was hearing that in my head. You're not going to get enough. You're not going to amount to anything. I mean, I'm hearing it.
Mhm.
Even when I was losing, I was hearing it in life, and when I was winning in life, I was hearing it. I was like, man, I got to be
Yeah.
better. I got to be better because I'm not going to fail. Even though we all have failures,
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. You got to back up and punt and come back, and try again. But I just couldn't. I couldn't let that. I couldn't let that take me down. I mean, I was, and I was telling young men this. I said, man, just because where you are right now, man, it's not where it's not where you're gonna end up. You just got to
Right.
put in the work, man. You got to know where you're going, and you got to keep pushing. You got to keep going after it. And I tell people, the next person, that's the person who's going to achieve more than you in life, is the one who's going to outwork you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I put in my mind that I was not going to let life handle me. That I was going to handle life.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times you just got to look around. A lot of times when you look around, it gives you motivation. When you look and see your mom working 3 jobs, trying to take care of you and your little sister,
Mhm.
you see your little sister sitting there, like, man, hey, I can't give up on this right now. That's so
Yeah.
I just look around and it just gives me that motivation. And then at the end of the day, I owe it all to God because
Yeah.
He's been like 100 with me through it all. I'm telling you, He's been 100 with me. He has, if He don't do nothing else with me, I'm good. I mean, because
Yeah.
he's shown me that he's real. He's a real deal. So
Yes, he is. And what do you feel has made you the man that you are today?
my grandfather,
Hmm.
I feel like um, that when he kind of took me under his wings,
Yeah.
he taught me first of all respect.
Yeah.
And he taught me hard work in
Hmm.
life because you didn't go down there. I don't care how small you are. You gonna work when you go down there in the summertime because they had the gardens and they had my granddad. He was a carpenter by trade. He only had a third grade education
Yeah.
because he had to be in the fields back in those days and he couldn't go to school. But he's a carpenter by trade and he built the convenience store next to the house. It was a meat market in it. Then up the street was a church that he built with his kids and it's been like that. But he instilled hard work into me and he's he's been a remarkable man. I mean, he didn't sugarcoat anything. I remember one time when I was working those 3 jobs in high school, my grandparents had moved from where they used to live
Hmm.
to where the neighborhood they live in now. So my mom ended up getting a house in the same neighborhood.
Hmm.
So we're all in the same neighborhood now. So I was playing basketball one day with my friends, and I'm working 3 jobs in high school, and I finally get a day off on a Saturday with all 3 jobs. That never
Yeah.
happened. So I'm down the street playing, and one of the jobs called because somebody called out and called the house, and my mom came down and got me and said, "Hey, you got to come to work." I was like, "No, I'm off work today." She said, "Well, somebody called out and they need you to come to work." I'm like, "That's not my problem."
Yeah.
That's not my problem. I mean, I'm scheduled to be off work, and I'm doing something. I want to be off work. Well, anyway, she made me go, and I was mad. So I went on to
Yeah.
work. Came back home from work. I stopped by my grandparents' house, and I walked in the door. My granddad. I said, "Papa," I said, "Man, I'm so tired of these jobs, man. These people call me on my day off of work. Mama made me go to work. I'm just doing all this right." And he said, "Sit down for a minute, son." So I sat down, and he said, "Don't come in here complaining to me about a job." He said, "If
Hmm.
you want to call the shots and do it your way," he said, "you got to own it." He said, "Until then, this is what it's going to be like."
Yeah.
So he was just raw with it, because he owned all his stuff, so everything
Yeah.
he did. But yeah, he was a remarkable man that led by example. I remember um, people coming like people being pastors under his ministries, and the way it happened, I mean, it was a guy on a chain gang, like in front of the house digging the ditches, and my grandfather
Yeah.
went outside and talked to him while he was out there. And then once he got released from prison, he came up to my grandfather's house and was
Hmm.
started hanging out with my grandfather. My grandfather started taking him to conferences, revivals, what we call them.
Yeah.
He preached, and this thing, this guy pastoring his own church.
Yeah.
So he always reached out to people. Had one guy, he didn't have like any clothes or anything like that to wear. My grandfather just took him up under his wings, and this thing, he passed in the church. It was
Yeah.
just like he was just raising up people that need to be lifted up. And I think he was, with, and the thing about it, trying to raise 11 kids back then. They had 11 kids, and he had to make it happen because grandma had to take care of the kids and do everything else. But
Yeah.
um, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. But his leadership has really, really, really changed my life. To all my cousins, man, I got 34. Oh man, it's so many of us. But when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, they call me a little pawpaw.
Yeah.
That's what they call me. Because my grandparents dead and gone now, but that's what they still call me when they see me when I come to town. Say, "Here come a little pawpaw."
Yeah.
So
I like that name.
yeah,
So back to you having those 3 jobs. So how old were you when you held those 3 jobs?
16.
16. And what were those three? What did they consist of? What were you doing?
They were. I was just going to tell you how old I am, right? So in high school, you can't do it now. But in high school, you can drive the school bus and you go to class. I mean, you go to the
Yeah.
bus class. You can and pass the class. You can actually drive the school bus in high school.
Uh,
So I drove the school bus in high school when I was in high school.
yeah.
I worked at the grocery store, bagging groceries.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I worked at Coca-Cola on the weekends where you just go around to all the different grocery stores and
Uh-huh.
pull the product out of the back room and keep your shelves full. You do that like
Yeah.
3 times a day. You have a
Uh-huh.
set number of grocery stores you got to go, and you do that. So most time on the weekend, I was at the grocery store and I was pulling Coca-Cola. And
Yeah.
then during the week, I was driving a school bus, doing the grocery store. So
Oh man. So what was your mentality? Like, how did that affect you mentally, or were you just kind of like, I don't really have a childhood? Like, how did you feel?
that's probably why I'm still crazy right now. No, but I kind of, I'm not gonna say I didn't think about my childhood,
Yeah.
but I knew that what was necessary.
Hmm.
I said I got to do what's necessary, and then
Yeah.
once you do it so much or so long, you become numb to it. This is just
Yeah.
what's the way it's got to work. I'm either gonna have or I'm not gonna have
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So that's the way it was, and I think one of the things is that I wasn't like a lot of people. I didn't have a bunch of friends.
Hmm.
I just had a couple of people I was cool with in the neighborhood. that we
Yeah.
lived in the neighborhood and played basketball together and stuff like that. Other than that, I didn't do high school friends that much. I mean, I was cool about everybody, but I wasn't, going to this other neighborhood, hanging out with these people, I wasn't doing all of that. So I kind of knew that I had to man up at an early age, and that's what it took for me. Was it tough? Man, sometimes it was tough. Sometimes it was tough. Sometimes you get tired, but I got to, like say, you look around, you see who you trying to hold up, who you trying to help out. It just motivates you, because you got to keep in mind, like if I'm off on a Saturday for whatever reason, off one job or whatever, my grandmother's calling down the street. I need you to come up here and dig some holes so I can plant some flowers in the yard, and we gonna plant these flowers, we gonna plant these bushes. I'm like, oh man, what? So I'm up there working. So, I was like, okay, so it wasn't really a lot of breaks, but it was life lessons, man. And I look back on it and I don't regret it because I made it happen. It's all said and done. I made it happen. And my mentality is that you got to be better today than you were yesterday. And you got to be better tomorrow than you were today. That's the only way you're going to be great. So I just had to always keep one foot in front of the other and just go with life, man. Give me a hand, I'll play it.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. So what advice do you give when you're out here mentoring others? What advice would you give our listeners?
Well, it depends on who I'm speaking to. I think that the message pretty much sounds the same. And I try to I'm torn with it sometimes because I feel like I don't give people wiggle room.
Yeah.
When you're going through stuff in life, one thing you got to realize is you cannot quit.
Yeah.
You cannot quit. Whatever you got to do, whatever it takes. You got what it takes, and it takes what you got. You can't play victim to everything.
Yeah.
You can't play victim to everything. You're not a victim of your circumstances. Sometimes you're just a product of your choices. You're in a situation because you chose to be there. And then some situations, you just got put in that situation. But you got to understand that's your moment. What you going to do with it? You're going to lay down and let your moment take over you, or you're going to rise above the moment and get momentum. So I don't do the poor me thing. I know some people are victims out there and been through some terrible stuff. I know that, and I'm steady praying for people like that. But at the end of the day, if you in a fight, guess what you got to do? You got to fight.
Yeah.
So like I said, I told somebody one time before, I was like, hey, life is like a steak. Sometimes you got to eat it raw. It ain't always taste good, but you got to endure it. Life is like $2 and one bone. What you gonna get if you get $2 and one bone? You gonna get a fight, right? Sometimes you got to fight, but you got to make sure you walk away with that bone. So that's just it. I mean, everybody get dealt different hands, and I understand that. You just got to play the hand that you dealt to the best of your ability, and you got to understand the moment you're in. You got to make the best of that moment.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So how can our listeners get a hold of you?
You can listen to my podcasts. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any network. You can go to the social media and the website. All we got to do is type in "Real Talk with Reginald D," and it'll pop up all the information and things like that.
Okay, and you said also that your wife does the podcast with you, correct?
Right. She manages this whole thing.
Oh, okay. So I thought she was a pastor as well. Okay.
No,
okay.
She manages this whole thing.
Gotcha.
She's the reason there's a Reginald D out here that people listen to.
Oh.
She's the reason you and I are talking right now.
Okay. Gotcha.
She put all this together.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, she does it all. I just get over there and talk, and that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Now that makes sense, though. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. Did you have anything else that you needed to add?
No, Robin, I appreciate you having me on your podcast and on your show. I look forward to hanging out with you more. And
Yes,
we'll connect again and see if I can get you on the podcast with me and we can chop it up a little bit.
absolutely. I would love that. Thank you again so much.
Well,
All
thank
right,
you.
everyone. Say thank you for having Reginald D on here. If you'd like to get in touch with him or check out his podcast, it's Real Talk with Reginald D. Again, this is Robin Black. Thank you guys all and stay blessed. Again, I'm your host, Robin Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. If you're navigating grief, toxic relationships, trauma, financial pressure, or the slow work of rebuilding after setback piled upon setback, this channel is for you. Our community now spans 118 countries, proof that real stories travel and that healing accelerates when we carry one another. Share your story, lend your voice, and let grace turn pain into purpose. Book your podcast in the link below and share your story. Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Wherever you are in the world, good morning, good evening, and good night. Stay blessed.